The Noob box. It's a tactic as old as Total War itself. So natural is the box as a response to being surrounded by enemies that even animals do it. Actually, the word box might be somewhat of a misnomer. It evokes rectangularity, but the optimal box is actually circular because it minimizes the perimeter relative to area. In nature, we see that most things that aim to provide an all-round defense are round. In the case of Rome Total War, it means having more men to defend a minimal front line. If you have n units, you generally tend to make a regular n-gon, because it's the best approximation of a circle you can make. Despite the word noob so often attached to it, the box still sees play at the tournament level. Specifically, the porcupine box, where your troops stand back to back. I'll never forget when Dante made the Cup of Nations semifinals by repeatedly deploying in porcupine formation with Greece, or when I defeated the prophetically named Pro Beatboxes box. So given that the box is here to stay, how do we become better box crackers? Most people I see attempting to break boxes surround the box and attack from all sides. It's only natural to do so. The instinct to surround and envelop is a deeply ingrained Total War habit that is backed by historical example. Carrhae and Cannae are singed into the mind of every self-respecting Roman history buff. Why is it then that most of these surrounds I see are so ineffectual at box destruction? Let's look to history to give us a few pointers. In The Art of War, Sun Tzu writes, "If he sends reinforcements everywhere, he is weak everywhere." This is precisely what a box does. It attempts to reinforce all sides against attack. However, by surrounding, we are also diluting our forces to fight on multiple fronts. The box's structure is designed to nullify the advantages of surrounding. In order to take advantage of the box's weaknesses, we must concentrate our forces at a single point of attack, and render the resources devoted to protecting the other fronts moot. As an example, look how these cataphracts are enabled to break the box from all sides, but succeed when they concentrate their power. What we want to do is create a battering ram of our best troops to plow into a single side. So what of the Serena, who slaughtered a Roman box at Carrhae by surrounding it? Was he wrong to do this? Not exactly. It's important when attacking a box to maintain just enough threat on the other fronts to distract from your concentrated strike. You want to avoid the opponent turning all of his forces to meet your strike. This can be done with relatively smaller numbers of men, or with one's lighter troops. The Serena did this at Carrhae with his horse archers, while the cataphract served as the concentrated force to strike at weaknesses. It is not only important that we concentrate our forces, but when and where we concentrate them. Every box has structural weaknesses, and diagnosing precisely where those weaknesses are is key to a successful box cracking. It might be a unit that is more depleted than the others, or one that's fatigued. Perhaps the box is comprised of units of varying quality. It is better to attack the area where the low quality units are present. As an example, in this game with Terra, he probably had me beat if I allowed him to rest and reform his units into a proper porcupine. But I noticed that one of his pikemen was depleted and fatigued, so I decided to attack immediately. Additionally, during the course of shooting down a box, structural problems may form where previously there had been men to cover. In a case like this, you may want to attack before the opponent is able to reform into a better box. Or better yet, while they're reforming, because they will have to lift their spears in order to do this. This is a bit of an art because you need to weigh the benefit of attacking a poorly made box against the value of whatever remaining ammunition your troops may have. You may end up accidentally attacking too early. You can also use heavier/low ammo projectiles to open up holes in the box directly before attacking. If you have both archer ammunition and Pila volleys at your disposal, it's probably better to use the archer ammo first. That way you can attack immediately after using your heavy projectiles, which opens up chasms in the box formation, which can be exploited before the opponent has a chance to react. This also applies to head hurlers. The corners of a box provide natural weak points for a box crusher to attack. This is especially true for box formations made of fewer units, since the interior angles of these corners will be smaller. A skilled boxer will overlap their pike units so that even the corners will have pikes poking out of them. But even the most well-made box is weakest at its vertices. When using cavalry units to attack a box, there are a few things to be aware of. Wedge formation is excellent for attacking obvious weak points, but if you're attacking a well-made box, wedge will lead to your cavalry units getting absolutely slaughtered. Use wedge very judiciously when attacking boxes. Another tip for using cavalry against boxes: pikemen receive a bracing bonus against charging cavalry, so it may be in your best interest to attack in such a way as to not trigger the charging animation, or indeed using regular movement orders to walk your men into combat. I find this is especially true in the case of cataphracts, as they have the defense to survive walking through a pike formation, and the mace makes them especially difficult to defeat in close quarters melee. This is another one that requires some judgment, as there's still many scenarios where the charge bonus is extremely beneficial. When using archers or slingers against the box, there are a few technical details that will make your ammo do the most possible damage. If you allow your archers to shoot on fire at will mode, they will shoot at the closest unit, which will usually be the one with shields pointed directly at your fire. It's far better to manually target the rear or sword side of a unit. Sometimes I like to fire along the rear sword side diagonal of the unit, since it is longer than either the length or width of the unit, and the archers have more vertical spread on their volleys than they do horizontal. Archers fire in tighter clusters at point-blank range than they do from farther away, so it may be tempting to fire from up close. However, if you do this, the firing arc will be too flat to clear the shields of the unit in front of them. For this reason, I suggest firing your round from maximum distance, to make sure that your archers reach their target from a proper angle. When shooting, use regular ammunition, not flaming ammunition. It does significantly more damage over time. If you want to use flaming ammunition, save it for the final round of shooting, so that you can attack immediately and take advantage of the morale impact caused by the flaming shot. Archers should be put into tight, deep formations during shooting to increase their accuracy. Try to avoid using up all of your ammo on units before you have expended all on others. This will prevent the scenario where all of the enemy's forces turn to face a singular archer unit with ammo. On the topic of morale, pay attention to your tooltips. They will help you identify which units are shaken or wavering, or otherwise suffering from morale penalties. There are a number of ways to cause morale penalties. In addition to the aforementioned flaming shot, stationing your units close to and on both sides of an enemy unit can induce the concerned over exposed flanks penalty. Additionally, stationing fear units, if you have any, near the enemy will cause penalties. Chariots in particular are most often useful standing just near the enemy, passively debuffing their morale, even during the final engagement, since they lose miserably to pikemen in combat. If you have phalanxes of your own, you may try to poke at the corners of the enemy's box, especially if your pikes are longer than those of your opponent. You might be able to kill some of the enemy's men without incurring any losses of your own. Additionally, you can park your pikes just in range to elicit the fighting status in the opponent, and then hit halt from time to time to stop your men from entering that same status. The effect of this will be to tire out the enemy's men, and if they don't know how to stop this, you may even be able to reduce them to the exhausted status before your attack, or frustrate the enemy into making a foolish assault on your pike unit. Of course, the proper counter is simply for them to hit halt themselves to prevent the fighting status from taking effect. When engaging in phalanx combat, it is best to avoid making attack orders that will cause your men to aggressively push into the enemy. You want to avoid plowing directly into pikemen when you could poke at them from range. When assaulting a box, it may prove best to avoid including very weak and depleted units in your attack. They may prove to be more harmful than helpful, with their premature routing being liable to cause a contagious panic amongst your men. Lastly, and this goes without saying, artillery absolutely demolishes a box. However, the most commonly played rule sets on Rome Total War don't allow artillery, and if you have them, your opponent is unlikely to box anyway. Alright, now with all that said, you're all expert box crushers now. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, be sure to subscribe and share this video with your Rome Total War friends.